I decided to ditch the formal talk that I'd come up with and just be. Is that okay? A way I can just kind of truly be here and not be thinking so much about what I might say or how many seconds to pause between paragraphs or any of that stuff that we ministers have to do. I want to tell you a little bit about how I came to Unity. I had a dear friend who was a coworker, and a woman a little bit older than me, maybe 25 or 30 years older than me, that told me one day that she never had a son, she never had a child. But boy, if she ever did, I would have been her son. Might have cried a little bit. Those who know me know there was probably a lot of waterworks. And I loved Ann Erickson dearly. And I knew Ann had some kind of special, something a little extra boost, a little turbocharged to her spirituality. And she made me want to know more. And she would always plant little seeds and little nuggets of wisdom for me to take and then figure out later on in my life when I was ready. Some of them now, 20 years after she's passed on, have gone, oh, that's what she meant. Does that ever happen to anybody in here where you read something or you heard something and then all of a sudden went, oh, that was for me? Well, Ann got me a gift one year, and it was a subscription. Apparently, she was in some kind of cult. I didn't even know. I was a little concerned when it arrived. It was called Daily Word. And I wasn't sure I dug it, because there was scripture in there and stuff that I was trying to get away from, because it was stuff that hadn't been kind to me yet, because I hadn't figured out that it is all for me. But it took me a while. Ann would be talking about unity, and I said, oh, okay, so you're Unitarian. We all get that, right? No, they're different. And unfortunately, it wasn't until Ann passed away that I actually went to her Unity Church, which was Unity on the River in Amesbury, Massachusetts. And there I received a very warm welcome from then Reverend Shipley Allenson. And I really thought, boy, this unity stuff really is cool. I wish that I had paid more attention when Ann was here, but it's okay. So we decided in 2003, being songwriters, that we would move where? Nashville, of course, because that's what you do if you write songs. And we went church shopping. We went to all kinds of different churches and met lovely people from all walks of life. For my taste, there were too many casseroles involved for me to feel completely at home. And I was still looking and trying to find the place where I could see myself coming back week after week. And one morning, I heard that there was a Unity church in Nashville. And I wandered in here. Laurie was working that day, but I wandered in here. And of all the luck, Janice Stanfield was the guest sermon and song. And I was like, what? You know, as a singer and a songwriter, I'm like, what? Somebody's actually doing that in this environment and that kind of message with music? Oh my gosh. And Reverend John was then the assistant minister and was officiating. And they did all this music, was over the top. And then at the end, they walked all these little kids in. We are walking as a light. And I lost it. I lost it. I'm home. I'm home. And I came back. I couldn't wait. Oh, it was like the week would not pass quickly enough for me to come to Sunday morning again. And Reverend Sheree Larkin was on the platform that Sunday and was a gifted speaker. And really dynamic, and the message was just a little different than what I had seen the week before, but no less passionate and no less in alignment with what my needs were right then and there. Tony Tanner was a pianist at that time. I forget who the music director was, honestly, technically at that time. It's a moot point. But Tony was just kind of a hired gun pianist. And as things evolved here, Tony became the music director and asked me if I'd like to play some keys with the band. So I got to be up here with my keyboard set up next to Tony and experience this place from a different point of view, which is here, looking out at you beautiful people. If you ever get the chance to come up here and look out, do it. Because as beautiful as this place is, this is the real view right here. This is the beauty of this place. It's spectacular. Things evolved. Jana Stanfield called and said, "Hey, I want to have dinner with you and Larry." Like, cool. Wow, how cool. Because this is like a celebrity in my world, right? Jana wants to have dinner with us. So we went to this cool little Thai restaurant down in Brentwood. And she said, "So," and I thought, oh, here it comes. I've been thinking, oh boy, I think you guys ought to resurrect something we used to do called the Higher Ground Coffee House. And it would give people a chance to come sing or read a poem or play an instrument or whatever. And I just think you two would really do a good job with that. So we talked it over with the church, and they put us out in the barn where we had a little coffee house gathering once a month, I guess it was. And man, we had a blast doing that. And I had a key to this place at that time, which was an amazing thing to be able to come and go at any time. And I really immersed myself in unity, in what was then First Church Unity. We had to return to New England to take care of some family matters. We were back there for 3 years while we took care of some things. And the whole time I stayed in touch with everyone. John McLean had left and gone back to California and was overseeing a CSL church. And I actually went out there and visited him in Hollywood one morning and caught one of his services. I tried to stay in touch with many of you here. And now, that was before Facebook, when they made it so much easier to keep tabs on people and what they had for lunch. And it took some effort to make the phone calls and send the emails and keep in touch. And I'm so glad that I did. Because once we got back home again in 2008, we networked with a number of New Thought churches. And in 2011, the Center for Spiritual Living, where I had been many times for various events and gotten to know a lot of the congregation, said that they were looking for a music minister. Now, I need you to understand something. I'm an okay musician, but I'm not those guys. And I'm just not. I think I'm a pretty good entertainer. I love to sing. I think I'm good at picking out music. I have my talents, and I have my shortcomings. And what I would do is go to CSLN to admire the musicians. You understand? They were like the real deal. And I would just be blown away. I would sneak in early and watch their rehearsals, and I'd be leaping out of my seat, giving them a standing ovation, which, it's like, look, dude, we're in rehearsal, So, oh, sorry. Sorry, carried away. So when they said, we would love for you to be the music ministry, I said, no, there's no way. There's no way. Not going to happen. And they persisted. They kept at this. And I had lunch with Dr. Mitch Johnson, who was in charge of the church, and the assistant minister, Dr. Tim Stewart, who just ordained me on Thursday, oddly enough. And we went to lunch, and they were telling me all the reasons why I should, and I kept giving them all the reasons I shouldn't, and I did decline officially. Reverend Tim called me the next morning. He said, hey, I'm going to be in your neighborhood. Could I just pop in for a minute? I just want to run something by you and talk to you a little. And 5 hours later, I realized he wasn't going to leave. I'd been through 4 pots of coffee. And I said, all right, I'll give you 90 days until you can figure out, find somebody. So I'll jump in and I'll cover for 90 days. So you got someone there. Okay, great. He knew what he was doing. So 3.5 years later, I finally left to pursue other things. So my New Thought journey has been a pretty wild ride, to say the least. How interesting. When we left back in 2005, and I had to go return to New England, part of me was excited because I was going for family matters, but part of me was heartbroken to leave here after everything that had been built and shown to me. And I was right here. And that window had a beam of sunlight coming straight down to here. And I walked into it, and I raised my hand. And I wept. And I sat at that piano and wrote a song about it called I Said Goodbye to Nashville, commemorating my experience here. So, you see, this place is indeed sacred to me. So when Reverend Christina said, oh, could you fill in for me on June 24th? I believe it will be your first official service to do as a reverend. I was magnificently honored. So thank you for that. Speaking of Reverend Christina, speakers included the likes of Reverend Michael Bernard Beckwith and Shad Goverland from Unity. These, Reverend Sheila McKeithen, have you ever heard her? Oh, these are powerful speakers. And Reverend Christina got up and was completely 100% authentically Christina and brought the house down. And the next morning, when a panel of people were reviewing the highlights of the week, her name came up 3 different times. One person broke into tears just reviewing her message. So you need to be proud, because I sure was. So Christina, thank you for this opportunity, and thank you for all you brought to the International New Thought Alliance. Okay, blew all my time telling you a personal story. When I understand, you've been talking about understanding for the month of July, which is interesting. The first thing that comes to mind when I think of understanding is the scripture, which I'm generally not a big quoter of, but lean not unto thine own understanding. Or, how does that go again? Trust in the Lord. And some of you squirm when you hear Lord, because you think, oh, not great, Santa Claus in the sky kind of. Lord translated actually means law, spiritual law. So if you're more comfortable replacing it with that than Lord, go ahead. So trust in the Lord, or trust in the spiritual law with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. There's a lot of misunderstandings right now. The political climate is heated. There's been a resurgence somehow of racism, which I can't wrap my head around. There's stuff going on that frustrates the living heck out of me, and probably you. But I'm going to suggest that we don't have to agree or endorse behaviors or agree with things. If we can get to a place where we can have some understanding of where that person is coming from, or what their past may have been, or how they got so, from my seat, misaligned with Spirit in some of their actions and thinking. Or maybe they're perfectly aligned. They're just aligned differently than us. So how do we get that place where we can offer some understanding for where the other people and persons are coming from? My suggestion would be to start by understanding yourself. Well, what do you mean by that? I think I understand myself just fine. Maybe you do. I'll tell you what, I had some work to do. It was only 5 years ago that I was locked up in a psych ward so I could figure out what the heck was wrong with me. And it was the most valuable work I've ever done, taking a look so hard in the mirror. You may not need to do that. I hope you don't. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. But I do suggest that all of us at some time or another forget that we are a beloved child of God. So we hear that in here, right? Those words are used often. But there is a difference between hearing the words, like it's just rote, right? It's just, child of God, child of God. You are a beloved child of God. Do you understand? Jesus is your elder brother. So start acting like it. That's what I had to do. I had to actually say those words to myself. Start acting like it. Take responsibility. So the number one understanding really needs to give its power to that. Understand that you are an extension, an expression of the divine. You are not an accident. You are nothing less than an expression of the divine, the one, a child of God. With that know-how, when you look at your brother or your sister with whom you disagree and you don't understand, you can at least take a breath and, like it or not, acknowledge that they are too. Not always easy, is it? Especially if you're mad or you're upset or you're frustrated. But that person that you're so frustrated with is your brother or sister. You ever have a sibling that you fight with? Oh, come on. Really? Nobody? Obviously, you must have been an only child then. That's who that person is. That little brother or sister that taunted you or stole your stuff or wore your favorite shirt or whatever the heck it is, okay? That's who that is. We are brothers and sisters. And if we can just live in understanding of that, this life would be perfect. Somebody a little over 2,000 years ago was just trying to tell us that. We made it this whole other thing that we all fight about, which is absurd. But I just want to, if I do nothing else this morning, but remind you of who you are and encourage you to look to your left, look to your right, look behind you, and know that you are looking in the face of God. Life becomes so much sweeter. Colors are brighter. Music sounds sweeter. I'm telling you, this is heaven. We don't need to wait. We're here. So, I behold the Christ in you, and I thank you so much for letting me be here with you. Namaste. Thank you. Thank you very much.